Hey everyone, this is Mark from the Wave Shop. Today I'm going to take you under the hood and show you what we did for the latest Final Cut King video, the Cliche RC Action Chase. I'll show you how I like to organize my session, a little bit about my process, and then I'll show you a cool trick at the end for achieving the Doppler effect. Let's take a look. Let me start by showing you how I organize my session. So you can see here I'm running Pro Tools 10. I've got 74 tracks in all for a 1 minute and 20-second video. So I really need to stay organized in order to make this process go smoothly. I like to keep the video up at the top, and one thing to note is that you want to make sure that your timecode rate matches the frame rate that the video was shot at. So this was 23.976 frames per second. So the way that I would change that is I would go up to Setup, Session, and change it right here, timecode rate, 23.976 frames per second. So let me show you how I organize my tracks. At the top here, I have 10 ambient tracks. And that's everything from wind noise to city sounds to the construction site at the end over here. Below that, I've got all my helicopter sounds. You can see that I split it up into helicopter far, helicopter medium, helicopter close, and helicopter big. Let me just play that section for you and show you what's going on. I'll solo out the helicopter. So the reason I split it up onto these separate tracks is so that I can EQ them separately without doing any sort of automation. When the helicopter is at a medium distance, I have this EQ on it to bring out just a little bit of the high end. When objects are closer to you, they tend to be more present, which is up in this high end area, and that's why I duck that a little bit. When the helicopter is really close, I actually bring up the high end a little bit to emphasize how close it is. So moving down, we have the driving sounds. This is mostly engine sounds and some driving hum. Below that, we've got some whooshes and some skids. And below that, I've got the big car impacts. These are very low-end heavy. They're really what gives each impact some punch. And below the car impacts, I have more impact sounds, but these aren't as low-end heavy. These are mostly impacting wood or concrete or the traffic signs. And as you can see, these are really layered. In just this one hit of these Starbucks tables, I have 11 tracks going on in order to make this sound. Let me show you just the impacts. And then adding the car impacts. So that's what I have going on for impacts. Below that, I've got the LFE and the LFE rumble. Those are low frequency effects. So I use the LFE for big impacts, like right here. Later on. And that makes the listener really feel when the car makes close impacts. Then I use rumble, usually when we're up close to an engine like the helicopter or the cars here. Below that, I have traffic cone sounds. And then I have tracks below that labeled SFX. And that's just any miscellaneous things that weren't covered by the tracks before. I've got footstep tracks and then gunshots. Then I've got the music and I've got my reverb. So that's just a little bit about how I like to organize the tracks. Let me show you my process. So the first thing that I did, obviously, was watch the video. I watched it over and over again just to picture what I think it would sound like. Then I started compiling sounds from my sound libraries. I started bringing them into my session and getting them in the general location. I started with impacts first, car impacts, skids, the helicopter. Then I moved to ambient noises, and the last thing that I did were the two engines. When I'm in the early stage of sound design, I don't like to do any volume automation because it can tie me down later. I do everything using clip gain and the crossfades. So as you can see here, this line right here is a clip gain. I've got 1.9 dB of gain reduction on this clip. And then here I've got a crossfade when the car comes into view. So let me just play for you the engine sounds here. So lastly, let me show you a little trick that I did in order to achieve the Doppler effect for these car engines. The Doppler effect is when a sound is traveling away from you, it tends to drop in pitch. And when it's traveling towards you, it tends to rise in pitch. So here's an example of that. When these cars are coming towards us, we can hear the change in pitch. So right here, that change in pitch is really crucial for realism. Let me show you how I did that. Out here near the end of the session, I have both of my engine sounds. In order to achieve the Doppler effect, I took a shotgun microphone to my studio monitor and just waved the microphone past the monitor, as if the sound source was going away. Let me show you what that sounds like. Here's the engine before the Doppler effect. And then here it is when I recorded it. So obviously, some of those passes are better than others, but there's a lot of usable audio in there. And that's what I did to make the car passing sounds. I would just cut to those Doppler affected sounds from the regular engine sounds. So you can hear that right here. So that's just a little trick. Again, that's just taking a microphone in front of a speaker and waving it as you play the sound. And now, for the last minute and a half of this Under the Hood video, I'll show you the original RC clip without the music, so you can really hear what's going on in the sound design world.
Sound speed. Go. Sound speeding. And...
So I hope that helps you out. You can see the detail and the organization that's required to really make this scene sound realistic. If you have any questions for me, feel free to comment below. I'll try to respond to as many as I can. Thanks.